Let me turn now to both Frank and Chris, because I want to get into this issue of critical infrastructure protection. When we look at the utilities, when we look at the electrical grid, when we look at oil and gas, we need to keep in mind all of these infrastructures were originally built without security as a primary concern from a cyber perspective. They're incredibly dependent on wireless, they're incredibly dependent on what's called SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition. There is, as a result, creates tremendous opportunity and concern for a sophisticated or not so sophisticated adversary to penetrate these very, very vital utility infrastructures. So I'd like to hear first from Chris, and then I'll turn to Frank about, from the commercial world, how are you looking at dealing with this issue? And if you will, the challenge of bolting on security after the fact in these infrastructures as opposed to baking it in when they're first developed. So Chris, you first.
Yeah, you touched on a good point. We are definitely bolting on security in some areas of our system just by the nature and the legacy nature of the systems that are out there. It's always harder to retrofit security on these systems and really do a complete cyber overhaul on a lot of systems, on your defenses, putting in personnel, security programs, physical security measures. That is a cumbersome, very manual process, but that is that currently right now is being driven by the FERC model that we are subject to, and I think it's a good model. It's really helped us identify our critical assets, our cyber assets that are essential to operate those critical assets, and put a comprehensive framework that covers cyber, physical, and personnel security to protect those assets. And it hasn't been easy. It's been a challenge, but we're learning. We're sharing amongst from peer to peer and taking lessons learned from the federal government on some of the challenges they've had early on with FISMA, and taking this guidance and applying that into our program. So that's kind of where we're at as a company right now, and definitely has been a challenge.
Frank?
So I think I just add to that. There's a couple of key elements as we look at the SCADA system. First, it is old and antiquated. It wasn't really designed to do what we're asking it to do today, and as we said, it's difficult to sort of retrofit security onto something that wasn't designed with security in mind. As we look at that problem space, there are two key elements. One is the criticality of the key elements in there and how we identify criticality for particular functionality of the system. And second, we have this notion in many things that we do in life of actuarial-based risk. So in the simplest of terms, everybody in this room has some type of credit score associated with them, right? We can go up and say, my credit worthiness to go and get a home loan is X. We can talk about driver insurance from an actuarial basis and say, statistically based, we understand constructs of what a 17-year-old Mustang is going to do, right, when they get out on the road, right? That's a high probability of compromise. So if we use actuarial-based risk to look at the infrastructure systems from an evaluation perspective in terms of likelihood of compromise, and then we look at the criticality of the systems, we know we don't have unlimited budgets, but what we can do is assign prioritization of the controls that we have in place and how we can next roll that into a new set of controls to do the best we can with what we have to work with.